You're listening to Maritime Noon on CBC Radio. It's 16 minutes after the hour. I'm Norma Lee McLeod. Thanks so much for being with us. You know, it's the first question the clerk at the liquor store will ask when you show up looking for a recommendation. Do you want a red or a white? Well, that's easy enough to answer, but after that, things get a bit more complicated. Do you want a Merlot or a Pinot Noir, a Chardonnay or a Sauvignon Blanc? What part of the world do you want to buy from? And then perhaps the most important question. How much are you willing to pay? The whole process can be a bit intimidating, so today we have some help. We are taking your questions about finding good, cheap wine. We're also, of course, taking your wine recommendations. Call us now, 1-800-565-1940. If you're in the Halifax area, 420-9336. You can send emails to marnoon@cbc.ca, and you can also tweet us at CBC Maritime Noon. And my guest today is wine critic Natalie McLean, and she's written a couple of books on the subject. Her first, Red, White and Drunk All Over, and the latest, Unquenchable, a tipsy quest for the world's best bargain wines. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Norma Lee.
Great titles for your books.
Yes. Yeah, very serious about wine. Not.
Yeah, exactly. You have a kind of a lighthearted approach, and I think wine's intimidating for so many people.
Absolutely. And I think with a wine book, first and foremost, you have to entertain. I mean, it is, after all, alcoholic grape juice. We're supposed to have fun with it. It's the drink of conversation. But, you know, my approach is let's have fun, and if you learn a bit about wine, that's a bonus.
I always, though, feel that if I don't pay top dollar for a bottle of wine, I'm not getting a good one. Is that really not true?
Not anymore, because a number of things have changed to really bring down the prices of wines. So we went through a bit of a recession recently, and a lot of us traded down and realized that we don't have to give up taste when we go down in price. But even more, technology in the wine business has brought down the cost of winemaking. There are new and emerging regions that are, competing for our wine dollar in the liquor store, new wineries from existing regions. So I think it's never been a better time to be a wine shopper.
Can you say how low can you go? If you go below that point, it's not drinkable? Is there such a line?
I like the sweet spot between $10 and $20. It's not to say that there are no good wines under 10, but if I look at that price range, most often I can find terrific wines that taste twice as expensive as they cost.
And if you were to put a brown bag over the bottles of wine that, I don't know, say the $12 bottle versus the $40, can you usually taste the difference?
You know, it's getting tougher these days, and I don't think it's a linear relationship in that, a $100 bottle is definitely always 10 times better than a $10. As the gap grows, sure, there are other cost factors that come into play, but I think, when you're dealing with a $12, it can easily taste like a $20 or $30 wine. So the gap is really closing.
What about putting them in boxes, which are very convenient? They stack nicely in your freezer. Does that mean it's a cheap, bad wine or not?
No, not anymore. Boxes and screw caps are good. I know they have this hangover image from a few decades ago when it was just plonk. But these days, people want convenience, and it's also a new generation of wine buyers who don't have that baggage or that perception of how wine should be packaged. And we're getting some really good wines in boxes and under screw cap in the bottle.
And can you really keep a boxed wine for a month or more?
You could try. It doesn't happen around our house, but
it's gone in a week or a day.
Exactly. It's never an issue. but you could keep it because they're usually inside the box is a sort of what they call unappetizingly a bladder bag, but it's sorry, wrong image. But it's usually air suctioned out, and oxygen is the enemy of wine, and that's what will turn wine eventually to vinegar if you leave an open glass of wine on the counter. So that packaging is actually ideal for preserving wine.
I've seen Tetra boxes too are coming into the liquor stores a little bit. What do you think of that packaging?
They work too, and what I like about Tetra Paks and screw caps is if you're traveling or whatever, they're easy to open. You don't need special implements. I mean, what other beverage needs special equipment to open it? At least with screw caps and Tetra Paks, you can open it like any other drink, which removes some of the snobbery, I think.
So we can serve from the box with pride.
Yes, exactly. And if you're really worried, decant it into a decanter in the kitchen and then bring it in.
Does that make that much difference?
Well, it depends on the wine. So young, rough red wines really benefit from some airing out because it's really the tannins in wine. Tannin is what you taste if you eat some walnuts. It's that furry mouth feeling or oversteeped tea. And so when you give a red wine that has lots of that tannin some air, that softens out. It's in reaction with the air, and that's why we decant, especially those reds.
And whites, does it make the same difference?
You can decant a white, and it's all about, your style and what you like to drink. But whites we want to keep chilled, and so in a decanter for a long time, they can start to warm up. And that would be the issue with the whites.
A lot of people like their wine cooler than room temperature. Is that unacceptable or not? It's okay to go a little cold?
No hard and fast rules anymore. We're doing what pleases us these days, which is a good thing. But the old advice about room temperature goes back to medieval days when a room was in a castle and not centrally heated. And so we actually, on average, drink our wines warmer than they should be when they're at room temperature of, modern houses. So reds can be brought down just a little, and I think you'll find, if not fridge cold, of course, but just a few degrees lower than room temperature, you'll find them more refreshing and not as tasting as alcoholic and heavy. Chilled white wines, we have the opposite problem. We tend to over-chill them. We put them in the fridge. So if you've got it in the fridge and it's fridge cold, bring it out for 15 minutes, and then it should be a nice temperature. It shouldn't be sort of foggy on the bottle.
What do you miss if it's too cold?
It can numb the aromas. So 80% or more of wine's character is in the nose, and because we can detect more than 2,000 aromas with our nose, but just 5 tastes in our mouths. So it's all about the aromas, and that's why we swirl. It's not to be snobby, but that's why you want the wine at a right temperature, because then those aromas are more airborne. They're not numbed out of the wine because the wine is so cold.
So should you follow those kind of basic rules even for the cheap wines? Does it make a cheap wine better if you do, pay attention to the temperature and the decanting and all of that?
Yeah, you don't. I don't want to advocate getting super fussy, but sure, a good glass, the right temperature, a nice food pairing, it is just as valid for an inexpensive wine as it is for a pricier one.
All right, people are going to want to hear what you're recommending for that $10 to $20 range. Do you have a top 2 or 3?
Absolutely, and I'd like to start with Nova Scotia because I think our wines here are terrific, and they are not dirt cheap, nor are they from Niagara or the Okanagan, but for the quality, they're amazing. So Benjamin Bridge, Domaine Grand Pre, Youst, they're fantastic, especially the crisp whites and the bubblies that they're making these days. So that would be my top pick, and then I would go to somewhere like Sicily. One of the insider tips in the book is go south. So in Tuscany and Piedmont, you're going to pay up big time. Go south to Sicily, where they've been making wine for hundreds of years, but they're just not well known for it because they never used to export rustic country wines, but they're delicious. Today, they're modern style. And I guess my third one would be go for a lesser known grape. So Malbec, instead of Cabernet, brand name grape or Chardonnay, go for a more obscure grape like Malbec in Argentina. And those are all in that sweet price range of $10 to $20.
Okay. All right. Good general rules. You're listening to Maritime Noon on CBC Radio. I'm Norma Lee McLeod, and we're taking your questions about wine and how to find a good wine at a bargain. My guest today for this phone-in is Natalie McLean, and she's written some terrific books on wine. We're actually going to give away 3 copies of her latest book today called Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines. And we will draw names from the people who call us and get in touch with us today on email or Twitter or Facebook. So call us now, 1-800-565-1940, in Halifax, 420-9336. Emails go to marnoon@cbc.ca, and on Twitter you'll find us at CBC Maritime Noon. Meredith Legg is our first caller in Halifax. Hi, Meredith.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Are you a wine connoisseur?
No, not at all. I wish I was.
So what do you like? What would you like Natalie's opinion on?
I've got to say I love the Yost Prima Rosa. I think it's $11 or $12, and it's got some gold medal pretty sticker on it, and I buy it all the time. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Is that a rosé, Meredith?
No, it's a red.
It's a red, okay.
Yeah, but it's
Prima Rosa.
I love it.
Oh, it sounds great. Yeah. Then that's a great point that you bring up, Meredith. Nova Scotia wines win medals on the international stage in wine competitions. The reason why the wines aren't as well known is that we don't produce a lot of them, but that's a good thing in wine. Small is good for quality. And so it really is, not just the right thing to do, but the delicious thing to do to drink local.
Yeah.
So that name, once again, is the Crema or Prima Rosa?
Prima with a P.
P. Okay. Good recommendation. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
All right. Our next caller is Anne Maddie in Stellarton, Nova Scotia, and she has a question for Natalie on wine. Hi, Anne.
Hi, good afternoon. Natalie, I have your book, Red, White, and Drunk All Over, and we read it in book club.
Oh, that's terrific. Thank you.
And I'm on your mailing list. So
terrific.
I'm very curious about your opinion on this year's Beaujolais Nouveau.
The Beaujolais Nouveau, which comes out the third Thursday of every November. It's kind of the annual celebration of the harvest from Burgundy, France. They say it's an indicator of how the wines will be. This is a terrific bargain wine, isn't it, Anne? I mean, they're usually...
I got all three for $45.
Oh, you can't beat that. That's terrific. And so they tend to be young, juicy red wines, and it was a good crop this year. Did you enjoy the wines? Have you tried them already?
The only one that we've had is the Pise Dreux.
Yes.
Haven't had the Georges or the Montmarsan, but I liked it. I found it light and fruity and very enjoyable.
Absolutely, and it's a terrific wine with turkey. If you're looking for a pairing for holiday dinner, it's a wine you don't want to keep, for more than a year. I would even say drink it by Christmas because it's meant to be consumed young. And I mean the wine, not us, but but it's a really nice, juicy red for turkey. Perfect pairing.
Okay, and tell me one more. What do you think of the Yost Muscat Prost?
Oh, that's a terrific wine, yes. Lots of beautiful sort of orangey floral aromas. I'd pair that with maybe Asian or medium curries. That would be a great pairing.
Is that not the type of wine that I could serve with almost anything?
Yes, it is very versatile because it's beautifully aromatic.
Okay, lovely.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks, Anne.
Now, what about the price of the bottles Anne mentioned? Are they in the bargain range?
Yes,
within
they
our
are.
Price point?
Yes, Beaujolais is always, well, it's pretty, it's downright cheap. It's like $10 to $13. It's really good value. And then the Muscat is probably a little more, about $15 or $16. But it's a great wine for the price point.
All right. Next up from Grand Falls, New Brunswick is Judy Whalen. Hi, Judy.
Hi, how are you today?
We're doing well.
Great. Good. I visited a winery this past summer in Richiboucto area, Richiboucto, New Brunswick.
Right.
And the wines were fantastic.
Ah, what did you have at the winery? Was it like a fruit-based wine, Judy?
They're all red, and they are fruit-based, but there's choices. Like you can get them from dry, very dry, to fruitier, lighter wines. They have rosés. They had white wine. Just absolutely fantastic. Now, I don't know how well known they are, but they're certainly working on getting out into the market.
Yes.
They go to a lot of the local farmers markets.
Great source to buy local
area.
wines. Yes.
Yeah.
Judy, do you make it a point to try to buy local wine?
I like local wine, but I do also like an Argentinian wine. It's called Los Moros, Los Moros.
Ah, good.
Yeah,
Great.
and it's a very good wine as well.
Is it a Malbec?
They have Malbec. They have one in particular that I really like. It's called Tannat, Tannat.
Oh, yeah. That's another grape, yeah.
Yep.
Nice, luscious red.
Fantastic, yep.
Absolutely. I recommend those wines on my website at nataliemclean.com a lot. Just thought I'd slide that in there. But I know people are always looking for shopping lists. And so Argentina is often top of my list when I'm, doing wine reviews.
Yeah, they are. They're very, very good. But like I said, the people who like to shop local should really try. People in the Richiboucto
I think so, too.
should try the Richiboucto River Winery.
Absolutely.
Because they have wonderful ones. So I won't keep you. I'm sure you have lots of calls coming in behind me.
We do. Thanks a lot,
Have
Judy.
a wonderful day.
And
Great.
Ned in Dartmouth is wondering how to avoid wines with sulfites.
Ah,
He sent
wines
that
with
by
sulfites.
email.
Right. So all wines have sulfites, even if they're not added, because they exist naturally on all fruit. And just as a point of comparison, a single glass of orange juice has more sulfites in it than an entire bottle of wine. And so sulfites get a bad rap for headaches and so on. And sometimes what's causing those are the tannins and the histamines. I'm not a doctor, of course, and so if you are suffering from a reaction, you should talk to your doctor. But sulfites are the preservative wine. So if you want to lower the amount of sulfites, you can't get to zero, but do look for organic wines. And that is one of the fastest growing sections in the liquor store. There are a lot from Chile, and we do produce some of them here in Canada, but it's a lot tougher in a cool climate not to use any sort of chemical help.
But as you say, a growing trend that
Yes,
you're noticing.
absolutely.
All right. We're taking your calls on wine today. We're getting advice on how to find a good, inexpensive wine, and we'll take your wine recommendations too. My guest is wine critic Natalie McLean. The number here, 1-800-565-1940 in Halifax, 420-9336. You can also email questions or comments to marnoon@cbc.ca. And don't forget about Twitter. You can tweet us at CBC Maritime Noon. I'll be right back to take your calls in just a moment. But first, Ryan Pierce has the latest news. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, normally RCMP in Antigonish County say another teenager has died after a crash yesterday that already killed a 16-year-old. The second teen to die is 17. No names have been released. There are grief counselors at that school today. Outdoor protests against homelessness have been taking place in the Maritimes. The Freezing for Warmth campaign just wrapped up in Charlottetown, and similar campaigns are happening in Cape Breton and Hants County, Nova Scotia. And a strike at Acadian Bus Lines has been temporarily averted with a new offer from the company to its unionized workers. Bus service will be happening this weekend after all. Now the forecast: mainland Nova Scotia, cloudy periods tonight with a low of 4. Cape Breton, mainly cloudy, chance of showers, and a low of 5 this evening. PEI, cloudy, partial clearing before midnight, low 4. In northern New Brunswick, mainly cloudy, slight chance of a shower, lows near 4 in the morning, highs near 5 with temperatures falling in the afternoon tomorrow. Southern New Brunswick, increasing clouds overnight with fog patches developing, and lows near 4 degrees normally.
Thank you, Ryan. That's Ryan Pierce in the CBC Newsroom. And of course, Peter Code will be by with your complete maritime forecast just before the top of the clock. But right now, we are taking your questions about wine. It's the holiday party season. Really, it's pretty much upon us. It's a good time to figure out how to get good quality wine without spending too much. And my guest today to take your questions is wine critic and author Natalie McLean. Once again, the number's 1-800-565-1940, or if you're dialing from Halifax, 420-9336. James McDonald is next from Marshfield, PEI. Hi, James.
Hello.
Hi, what's your question for Natalie?
I just want to also say we have a lovely new winery that opened in PEI this summer, Matos Winery.
Ah.
Nice Chardonnay, dry whites, and
You're enjoying that?
Yeah, I'll have to look for that, James.
yeah, they're lovely. My question is, when you purchase a wine, how do you know, or what do you look for one that will age well?
Ah, okay. Well, what helps a wine age are sort of the basic elements of tannin and acidity and fruit flavor and all of those elements working together. It's not necessarily just the expensive wines that will age, but they do tend to be, I find, from cool climate regions. So our wines in Canada do superbly well, whether it's an ice wine or a Riesling that has that white zippy acidity, that kind of thing. Or you look at France. Their wines tend to age very well because they've got a cool climate. Generally, that's what I stick with if I want a really broad rule of thumb. Port is a great wine. I mean, that will age for decades if you like that dessert wine. But that's generally what I would look for.
Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, James.
All right. A question from Lawrence McEachran by email in Halifax, and a couple of other people have asked the same thing. He said, first of all, his best wine advice: if you like it, buy more of it.
I like that, Lawrence.
That's a good line.
Yes.
Which leads him to question you: how long can I keep wine, reds and whites, especially if they're cheaper? Is there a cutoff then?
Okay. Yes. Well, there are, again, certain guidelines, not hard and fast. Most wine that is made today in the liquor store, like I'd say 99% of it, is made to be consumed within a year or two of purchase. It's not made for aging. And in fact, most wine is consumed within 17 minutes of getting it home from the liquor store. And
Exactly.
winemakers know that because a lot of us don't have the patience, time, or money for big cellars anymore. So it's a pretty safe bet that most of the wines are going to be drinking right away. It's also a pretty safe bet that they're not going to go downhill or get ruined with, 1 to maybe 3 years of aging. But they're probably not going to improve that much unless you're into those collectible wines like Bordeaux and Burgundy and the fussy wines that do tend to be more expensive. So that would be my rule of thumb. There are certain categories like dry rosé and Sauvignon Blanc, crisp white, that should be, I think, consumed within the year.
Nothing more disappointing than opening that bottle you've saved. You're giving it on your wedding day, let's say, and you open it on your 20th, and
That's
it's
just
bad.
sad, yes.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
Okay, Louis Allard is on the line from Shediac in New Brunswick. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. What was your recommendation about wine?
Well, I find that as value wines go, the Spanish ones are usually a very good price to quality ratio.
Absolutely. Spain is a terrific source, and there are a lot of what we call old world countries revitalizing their image, and that's another insider tip that's in the book, so I'm glad you brought that up, Louis, because they're producing really vibrant, luscious red wines these days, not the old style sort of dried out whatever. So Spain and Portugal both are excellent values.
Yes, I do enjoy the Portuguese wines. I find there's always a little hint of cedar in them for some reason. I don't know, the ones that I've had anyway.
Yeah, it must be the kind of oak that they're using, but yeah, they're delicious.
I suppose. The reason I was calling is I do have a question about a Yost product which I found years ago. In 1996, they produced a wine called Solstice Ice, and it was a red ice wine, something that I haven't seen since. I was wondering whether you had heard of it or seen it since 1996.
I haven't seen that one, but I have seen red ice wines. So they, it is possible to make a red ice wine. You start with red grape and leave the skins on. The skins are what impart the color. So it'd be worth checking out the winery's website and to see if they're still producing it. But you certainly can get like Cabernet Franc based ice wines. I've seen those, and some other red grapes too.
Are they mostly Canadian products? I know that Canada is making a bit of a niche for itself in the ice wine.
Yes, absolutely. We're the leading producer in the world of ice wine because this is one of the few blessings, but we're consistently colder than any other region, including Germany, which also makes ice wines, but only every third year. We produce every year. So Nova Scotia, Niagara, Okanagan, we're very consistent, and Quebec, actually, ice wine every year.
Louis, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right. On Twitter, Robin asks an interesting question. She says, I can't have reds because I have an allergy. Is there a white that goes well with beef and other things that traditionally are paired with reds?
That's a great question. I like that. So, Robin, you may, again, be reacting to the histamines or tannin in red wine, so that's what you want to avoid in the whites. Now, with beef, very robust flavored kind of dish, so you want a robustly flavored white. I would start with a Chardonnay, a nice buttery Chardonnay from a warm climate because they're going to be heftier, more body. You need that flavor for the beef. So try Chile would be a great source, Argentina, even South Africa, the great sources of values there. I would try that first.
So it's okay to do that?
It is. You're free. Please have fun with it.
All right. From Miramichi, New Brunswick, Rose McFarlane is on the line. Hi, Rose.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Did you want to recommend a wine or have a question for Natalie?
We experienced a new winery this year as we were driving from Fredericton to Hampton through Cambridge Narrows. And there's a winery, and the name is Mott's Landing Vineyard.
Oh, okay.
And they have beautiful reds and whites. They also had it's called a Cranpain. They do it especially at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And it's cranberry and champagne mixture.
Oh, that sounds great.
It was lovely. We enjoyed that for Thanksgiving. And then we also purchased, because the other wines we purchased we had them at our Thanksgiving celebration, but we also purchased a late harvest dessert wine, which we're keeping for Christmas. And it's everything that they had was really tasty. I'm not sure of the type of grape, but we really enjoyed them, and we just wanted to mention them because it's an excellent place to go to purchase some special treats.
Absolutely, Rose. I'm glad you brought up late harvest because for those who don't want the full-on sweetness of an ice wine, a late harvest is kind of in between, halfway between a dry and a really sweet dessert wine, and so it's a lovely, again, after-dinner sipper, or would even go well with the turkey.
Yes, and that's how they explained it to us, that it wasn't as sweet as the ice wine. It was just a bit less sweet.
Well, thanks for the recommendation.
And can I mention one other wine?
Sure.
There's also a Rishabukto River Winery here in New Brunswick, and they make excellent red and whites. I'm not sure of the type of grapes, but they also have a wonderful product that if anybody has an opportunity to try it, they're very nice.
Terrific.
Right.
Thank you for taking my call.
All right, bye-bye. Madeline Andreas in Dartmouth is asking if you can recommend a medium dry white wine in the $10 to $15 range, and she says, I never seem to get it right.
Oh, okay. Madeline, head to Germany because right there you've got a couple of wines that are in the liquor store now. I saw them the other day as I was looking around. One is called Dr. L, and it's from Ernie Lucen Winery in Germany. That's $14. You'll find it just has a a nice touch of almost peach sweetness. It's not a dessert wine, though. It's just what you're looking for, that medium dry. And then Lingenfelder is another German Riesling, same price range, $14 to $15, and I will post them on my site, nataliemclean.com.
All right. Greg Kinsman in Hubbards has a question as well. Hi, Greg.
Hi, how are you doing normally?
We're doing well. What's your advice on wine?
Well, what I like to do is when I'm in an area where there's a winery, is to take advantage of their tasting bars.
Yes, that's a great idea.
When you're in a winery, you've got hundreds of bottles of wine in front of you, and is a $10 buy, $10 or $12 a good buy or a bad buy? There's a $50 wine a good buy or a bad buy. You can figure that out just by getting a little sip of wine at the tasting bar.
Yeah, and a lot of fun too.
Absolutely, it's good to sample.
Yeah, it's one of the things I'd like. We have a cottage about a mile away from the Yost Winery, and when we're up there, we always go on a wine tour. It's a great way to learn about the wine experience, and the wine bar itself. To win and sit and taste the wine. Then you can decide, well, do I want the Comtesse or do I want one of the Rieslings? What do I want?
Absolutely.
And you can find, they'll have 3 or 4 different ones in a similar style in different price ranges. You can figure out if the lesser or the better price, the higher price is going to be the one you want.
Yeah, and you can talk to the people who are pouring the wines. They're often very knowledgeable. It can be a mini wine course.
Absolutely.
All right.
And Hans Christian knows his wine.
He does.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go next to Antigonish. Wilson Evis is our caller. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, what's your question about wine?
First of all, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
So, we really enjoy the Yost lines of product that are out there, and like to support Nova Scotia as well. We tend to enjoy the more medium wines, medium sweetness, like the white Zinfandels, and we make our own with great success. And just wondering, really, we have no hard, fast rules of pairings, but wondering what would be best paired with a white Zinfandel, which we call our summer afternoon wine. If you don't mind, I'll hang up and hear it on the radio. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Wilson.
Wilson, I would, turkey comes to mind immediately. I guess my mind is already at
Christmas,
the holiday dinner, yeah. But because White Zinfandel is a nice, juicy, mouth-watering wine, you want to think about, what could use some moistening, like turkey, but equally duck or roast chicken would be lovely. The only thing I would probably maybe not go for is that full-on juicy steak. It might overwhelm the White Zin, but the White Zinfandel is actually very food versatile.
All right. That's great. Thanks, Wilson, for that question. In Dartmouth, Bradshaw is next. Hi, Brad.
Howdy.
Hi.
My concern, it's nice to have a nice wine that tastes good, but my concern is health, because I'm an old guy and ready to pack it in.
Well, not just yet, we hope.
As I can. And so I'm interested in the polyphenolic content of wines with reference to specifically resveratrol.
Right.
And I'm wondering if your guest today can tell us anything about the best, the wine which has the highest concentration. Apparently the Concord grape from Ontario is pretty good in this respect.
So you're looking for wines that are good for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Medicinal
all right.
drinking. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
We all could use that.
All right. Well,
aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. The one I would recommend is Pinot Noir. Now, it's the heartbreak grape because it is difficult to grow, so it's not as inexpensive as the others, but the reason why it has so much resveratrol and good polyphenols is that it's grown in a cool climate like ours and has to fight to survive against the cool and the rot and the mildew. And it's the antioxidants that the grape is using in its own skins to fight off that disease is what's good for us and ends up in the wine. So I would definitely go for Pinot Noir from any of the Canadian wine regions. It's a light, juicy red, so it's nice. Great with food, not heavy in alcohol. So I think, if you want to drink, according to the medicinal benefits, I would start with Pinot Noir.
You got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Brad. Bye. John Cunningham sent this email question, wondering what you think, Natalie, of wine aerators, such as the Rabbit. What's a wine aerator, first of all?
Wine aerator is to help you with the decanting process. So instead of just pouring the wine into a decanter, you put it through this filtering system. Some are different structures, but they're basically like an extra little cup that gives the wine a bit more air as it's flowing down into the decanter. And again, it's the same principle as you're trying to get at when you just decant it. More aeration, smooth out those rough young red wines. I think it does help. I'm not sure if I'm willing to splurge for those things, but I found they work. They certainly don't have any negative impact on the wines. But I'd be interested in any other listeners' experience with those aerators, because some people are really quite attached to them. They find that makes a huge difference. I'm just not seeing a huge difference between decanting and using the aerator with a decanter.
So you can get maybe the same effect.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
All right. Elise in Sackville is our next caller. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi. What did you want to recommend today?
I wanted to recommend a wine. It's called Black. It's a black label as well, and it's a very, very dark wine. And it's the most delicious wine I've ever had, and it's only $10.99.
Wow.
That's a good deal. Do you know this one, Natalie?
Black. No, where's it from, Elise?
I'm not too sure, actually. I don't even know what type of wine it is. I just know it's very dark, very full-bodied, very rich.
Do you think it's from Australia, maybe?
It possibly.
Okay, because there are some labels from Australia that do have that black, either a black label or black in the name, and they are really full-on, full-bodied reds, and they're quite delicious.
Well, the price is right for sure, $10.99. That's good.
Yes.
All right, thanks for the recommendation.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, Natalie, what you think of Fusion. That was a huge craze a few years ago. You couldn't get it on the shelves, and it's comfortably around $10.
Oh, yeah,
I think.
Even lower, I think, in some areas. But yeah, Fusion was just a massive hit. And actually, in the book, I visit Argentina and the winery that makes Fusion. I was focused on their Zuccardi wines, but they make Fusion, and it blew them away in terms of how successful it was. But I think it had the right price point, and that price quality ratio was pretty amazing, and people recognized it. And I think, like most winemakers, the observation is the first sale is based on the label, but the second is based on what's in the bottle. And so they were proving that the quality was there, especially at that price.
The first sale is based on the label.
You betcha. Because, unlike most purchases, you can read the first chapter of a book, try on a dress, but we can't taste wine, at least usually, not legally, before we buy it. So we're often looking at a fluffy squirrel or a castle in the middle distance. And so that's why we have wine critics, I think, and not orange juice critics, because it's a mystery, and it shouldn't be. So, but Fusion had this lovely white label that looked expensive, so people were proud to bring it to a dinner party. And then when you opened it, that's when the real proof was in the pudding, or in the bottle, so to speak, because it really delivered on the taste and quality for the price.
All right. Frank Taylor is our next caller from Mactaquac, New Brunswick. Hi, Frank.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, if it was my case, I wouldn't be trying on the dress. I'd be trying on the kilt.
Oh, okay. Good to know, Frank.
Couple of points. In round about the 82 or something like that, I had a little wine bar in St. John's, Newfoundland. And at that time, once a month, we had the Epimium Society would meet there and do some tastings. Anyhow, I thought, oh, terrific, I'll be able to pick the brains of this one-tip chap who was apparently in the top 3 in Canada. So I went over, and as the night went on, I went over and I said, Doctor, can you tell me, how do you tell a good bottle of wine? And he said, very, very simply, Frank, he said, if you like it, it's a good bottle of wine.
Right, exactly.
And that has stuck, and I've told that story a million times over. But on another note, and I'll be brief, Shiraz Rosé Two Oceans came on sale here in New Brunswick recently. Regularly $15 a bottle or something like that, came on for $8. So
that's a good deal.
If anybody's got any sense, and if anyone enjoys a curry, this is a perfect matching for a curry. That's Shiraz Rosé Two Oceans.
That's a fantastic label. Two Oceans from South Africa. They also make a terrific Sauvignon Blanc at about $10. And great brand to look for.
Well, I like all the product. Your white, the red, the rosé.
Yes.
And one last thing is, I like when I'm doing, like this weekend, we're going back to the 70s. We're having a fondue, and we'll have 3 courses. We'll have a cheese fondue, a meat fondue, and a cheese fondue. And if we're not all comatose by that point, we'll have tried some whites with the cheese. Not necessarily. You can drink red with the cheese if you like. With the meat, we'll probably do a red of some sort. And then to finish up with the chocolate fondue, which all the girls will enjoy, we're doing frictionette.
Oh, yes, the Spanish bubbly.
Yeah.
Only about $14.
It's great. Well, they actually have about 3 or 4 now, though. 14, 16, 25, 45. they go up there.
Okay.
But if anyone's interested in, something to pair up with dessert, I like Fix It just to finish off.
It's a terrific bubbly.
Will you have disco music in the background too?
No, and my perm's falling out.
All right.
Ladies, have a lovely day. Enjoy the show as always.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes, the perms. Okay, and that was one recommendation for Shiraz. Monica in Fredericton's looking for the same thing, a recommendation for Shiraz in that sort of bargain price range.
Absolutely. Try Wolf Blass. That's a widely available wine. He's in the book. He's in chapter 1 for a reason. He's very colorful, but his wines are terrific. Again, great producer. The Shiraz Red Label Cabernet Sauvignon, $14. You cannot go wrong with that one.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you, Normally.
Lots of fun and lots of interest in finding good wine at bargain prices for sure. Don't forget, we're giving away 3 copies of Natalie McLean's book, her latest Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines. And we will draw from the names of the people who have called and tweeted and emailed today. You can also put your request for being on this draw in our Facebook page or on our Facebook page. Just search for Maritime Noon.